And good Thursday morning. My name is Ryan Belmar. I'm the owner and publisher of What's Up Noop. It is Thursday, September 26th, just after 10:30 a.m. And we are talking tourism today. We're talking tourism, talking travel, and one of my favorite topics. And we've been doing this for quite a few years, actually. I'll have to ask him. Evan Smith is President and CEO of Discover Newport. Evan, we started having these conversations on W80K 7 years ago? 8 years ago?
At least, with our mutual friend Bob Angel, who mentored both of us.
Yes.
He's the all-star of all-stars. So yes, it's been at least 7 years, if not more, because we were both pinch hitting for Bob Sullivan after his passage, and so yes, it goes back a while.
If we did the math, we might be approaching 10 years. How are you?
I am doing really well. Thank you for asking. Love being a grandparent. Love my favorite season, fall season. So much to look forward to. And just want to thank you for the opportunity for joining you today. And thank you for what you and your show do to help keep our community conversations going here in the city, on the island, in Newport County. Your voice is an important part of the media. I think helps the community have important dialogues of all different types. So thank you for the opportunity to join you today and network.
Well, I appreciate that. We certainly love talking about these items as well as connecting people. A lot of times people might hear your name. They might the only time they might ever see you is at a City of Newport City Council meeting. And there's more to you than when you're just getting up there and talking about hotel tax or whatever else it may be. But I wanted to start off with just how has this year been in tourism? I guess we'll start with tourism. And how soon do you know factually how good of a season it was, summer season or year it was?
So there are endless number of statistics and things that would bore your viewers to death. I think what I'm going to try to do is summarize that this was a year that we leveled off, and let me explain. We just went through a deep valley and then a high peak. The deep valley was COVID, probably the worst 9 months ever for the travel industry nationally and internationally. And so that was the lowest valley we ever had. When people got the freedom to travel again, we quickly escalated to one of the highest mountains we've ever been on, the highest peak. And so the revenues went from the lowest to the highest in a matter of 12 to 15 months. And so this year, this past 12 months has really been a time for the marketplace to correct itself and come back into a more normal charted pathway or predictable pathway. And so while some of the numbers this year are down, they're actually up from 2019 level, but we're finding a more equal playing ground. But the level in travel for Americans and internationals remains very strong for a lot of different reasons, some of them which we'll talk about later today.
Is there a type of tourism that post-COVID has spiked, and is there a type that has kind of gone down here in Newport County?
I think that people are looking for new experiences. A lot of people have traveled. We have a record number of employees, says this 69-year-old man. Everybody looking to travel the world and find new experiences, whether those experiences be outdoor, indoor, culinary, cultural, heritage. There are a number of different reasons people are traveling. And one of the reasons that we remain a appealing destination is that our menu of experiences continues to diversify thanks to our alliance partners who really put a lot of innovation and creativity into creating new experiences that people near and far can experience throughout the city. And so I think that people are looking at things they've done, but they're also looking for new activities and new experiences that they can find.
I can't help but noting when talking about travel and tourism in the city of Newport, at least 41 years ago today, and I do not believe you were working at Discover Newport then. Australia too defeated Liberty, where Australia took over the America's Cup. And I just think it's a point for, I don't think there's an answer or question here. Just just to think about how Newport has changed over those 41 years. Why people come to Newport. Some still sailing, some still the main reasons they came here 41 years ago, but just the difference that's happened over those years.
Yeah, I saw that on your website earlier today, and I did not remember that. So thank you for that flashback. I actually was in town as a visitor. I had no idea that my future would bring me here later on, but I was here on that crazy day that everybody was down on Bowens and Bannister's Wharf when they lifted up the boat and saw the wing keel for the first time, which really changed the sport of sailing. I think it was a point in time, not only for the sport of sailing, which changed it really from kind of a Corinthian event into an event of technology, but it was also a landmark event for the city of Newport in terms of its continued evolution, in terms of why people elect to visit this place. And so some of the iconic reasons, the architecture, the sailing, those types of things were some of the early DNA strands of why or how Newport was evolving into a destination resort. People were bummed out because they thought when the America's Cup left, Newport might turn into tumbleweeds, but that was incorrect thanks to all the folks that had the vision to start Sail Newport, because Sail Newport was born out of the loss of the America's Cup and the sailing community and the marine community saying, we've got to do more to protect this and grow this. And so like a phoenix rising, Sail Newport is born and we take a new direction. And frankly, I think that was a blessing in some ways. It was a double-edged sword.
You just think about the evolving, what Newport did after that, but also it still continues to evolve every season, with the U.S. Senior Open, the Great Elephant Migration this year. Has that do you see that as an every year, every season evolving for Newport?
I do. I think that there are, again, this goes back to innovation and ideas. There are some, as I travel the world, and I know you're a frequent traveler, I often see interesting types of exhibits, programs, use the word events. And so places are becoming more innovative and creative. And that's one of the reasons that I think we all love to travel, is we all like to see why there are different places and why people are different and why foods are different and culture is different. And in many ways, I think travel is one of the fundamental or great ways that we create peace in this unsettled world and that we live in, because it helps us have exchange at all levels. But yes, I do think that these interesting ideas are going to continue to evolve. Will they all fit our city? Probably not. One of the things that Discover Newport does, along with our entire industry consisting of lodging, attraction, shopping, dining, recreation, transportation, special event people. We filter a lot of different things, and there are things that I think that are appropriate and that fit this unique early American city. And I think there's some things that don't. And over the years, we've filtered some things that we thought might be good here, and we filtered out certain things that we didn't want here. And that one of the quick ones that comes to my mind is the discussion we had 10 years ago about duck boats coming here. And people had that public debate and said, yeah, no, I don't think duck boats are appropriate here. And we took a different direction. So I think these ideas need public discussion and debate. And if they hold the water test, then they move on. If they don't, they're sent someplace else.
Speaking of public discussion and debate, I can't let a chat go on without bringing up some of the public discussion. It seems like with this Newport City Council troop session, the 2 years that we're in, there has been a lot of talk about, I'm going to throw out words, I don't believe in them, over tourism, or we got to tax more of the non-residents or tax more of the visitors. A lot of, I don't want to call them political statements, but they are politicians. They're members of Newport City Council. You've been up there for some of the discussions. Just wondering what you make of all this talk about there being too much tourism and we need to tax the visitors and tax the non-residents as much as possible.
So I'm going to try to break down your question into two parts. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. You just threw a lot into that. That's minestrone soup there. Let's talk about over-tourism for a moment, and then we'll talk about taxation. Okay. So as a destination, in my single opinion, I think over-tourism, it's interesting over the years, every year there's a new buzzword in tourism. There used to be heritage tourism, cultural tourism. Every year there's a new quote unquote academic word for tourism. I think this year's buzzword is over-tourism. Maybe next year's word will be under-tourism. I'm not sure, but I see that term really referring to a saturation point. When does a place become saturated? Ski mountains used to have unlimited skiing. Then they got too crowded. They got saturated. They went to time releases. So they monitored how many people on a mountain. Disney used to say, everybody come. It got too crowded. Then they had to time resorts. So does a place reach a saturation point? I believe so. Yeah. Is Newport touching saturation points at certain points? I think there's a strong indicator to say yes. Probably for maybe 14 weekends during the summer, we're touching that red point of saturation. Certainly, I don't think that the numbers support that we're oversaturated midweek or on the shoulder seasons or in the dead of winter when you could fire a cannon off in the city and not hit anybody. And so realistically, I think that there are things that you can do to address saturation points. What is Discover Newport doing? Discover Newport is working on trying to fill shoulder seasons, off seasons, and not trying to promote the peak season as aggressively. We don't need that. We're already there. The gas tank is already full. We're trying to promote midweek conferences. We're trying to promote shoulder and off-season activities like the Winter Festival and restaurant weeks and other things like that, which are really very helpful. So trying to move people off of those time periods is the number one point. We are trying to spread out our visitors. We represent 9 beautiful towns, inclusive of the city of Newport, but we also represent Jamestown, Middletown, Portsmouth, Little Compton, Tiverton, Bristol, Warren, and Barrington. Those communities, I don't think, have as high or nearing the saturation point as the city of Newport is. So we're trying to move people to other places for other experiences. And we're working on mobility. Discover Newport is the sponsor of the summer shuttle from the Gateway Transit Center up Bellevue Avenue to the Mansions and the Cliff Walk. We foot the entire bill for that for the better part of 5 months to help with mobility. This year, we started a new program with a new bus direct service to Boston South Station to connect one of our number one markets, Boston, to Newport, so people don't have to bring cars. So we are working on mitigating those issues around saturation points. And are we there? No. There's more things that we could do. But, one of the things, Ryan, a vision I dare say, and this is, I want to make sure I use my words correctly. When you look at the big peak summer weekends, many of it's driven by significant world-class, professionally run events. And you go all summer long, with tennis tournaments and music festivals and boat shows and the whole long list. I'm not leaving anybody off that list. But, imagine what would the city look like if it opted not to license those events. Could you imagine what Newport would look like on those 14 or 16 weekends if those events weren't allowed? To me, I don't think that that's the option we want to pursue. But that it still doesn't mean that we don't need to take more measures to work on better mobility and the better distribution of people. So let's switch over to taxes for a moment. That was the second part of your question. One of the things that I wish was that some media person, somebody like yourself, would go out and do a summary of the various different taxes and fees that the city currently makes from non-residents. One of the points of the current political rhetoric that we listen to is that very few of the candidates actually stand up and talk about supporting commercial property taxpayers. As they should be talking about what they're going to do for residential taxpayers. But in my opinion, elected officials have a responsibility to promote both residential taxpayers and commercial property taxpayers. Commercial property taxpayers, the last time I looked at City Hall records, represented about 28% of the property taxes in the city of Newport, with the Newport Marriott being the largest commercial property taxpayer at about almost 1.4 million. I'm rounding up at that point. So one of the things I wish was more prevalent in the political dialogue is a disclosure and acknowledgement and appreciation of the enormous amount of revenue that the city takes in at this time, but also to create a collective conversation about saying, how could we grow that pot? Sometimes I think people think that the city's not making any money on tourism, which is absolutely incorrect. When you look at property taxes, lodging taxes, meals taxes, beach fees, cruise ship landing fees, mooring fees, I could go on with 14 or 15 different fees, and thank you for illustrating that. There are significant. They're measured, Newport's making close to $5 million in its lodging tax. It's making $3.3 million in its meals tax. It's making $400,000 on mooring fees. Each one of those boxes you see on the screen are significant. Can they grow? Yes, they can grow. Like any other business, you don't want to be the highest in the business and you don't want to be the lowest in the business. You want to be competitive in the business. And I think the city is right, and I think all elected officials are right for reviewing the level of taxation and fees assessed to make sure they're competitive and in the right place, and that revenue is being used for things that will help the city. And so not only is it the revenue generation from taxes and fees, but it's also the application of what are those things going to do. So the current rhetoric about assessing more fees and taxes on non-residents, I get that. I do get that. I just wish it was framed better, because the conversation is starting off like there is no generation, when travel and tourism, we commissioned a study from the leading national research firm in the United States and in the world, and the travel and tourism industry for the city of Newport is worth over $1 billion. And so this is a major industry for the city, and personally, I'd like to see more focus on how do we make that sustainable. How do we make it sustainable for our residents, people who work in the city but may not live here, and people who visit here from all over the world? To borrow a George Bushism, I hope we can have a kinder and gentle conversation, and not this them against us type of a conversation, which I don't think helps anything.
Yeah, and I feel like it has been of recent, or I've just been paying attention, or I'm just paying attention to travel and tourism more often. Just one example of another extreme is I spend an awful amount of time in Alexandria, Virginia. As some readers know, I go back and forth. They don't allow events with more than 2,500 people back-to-back weekends. So there's an extreme of, Newport could be like that in the summer, and what would that do to all those tax fees that you just mentioned, as well as just overall tourism? A lot of times when I think about the issues, in quotes, that people have with tourism, I wonder if it's just traffic. And, some of the things that you mentioned with the shuttle and the bus up to Boston, I wonder if you're seeing success there. And I'm wondering if a lot of the issues, take the revenue aside, the too many people or too many cars on the road, could be solved with some traffic measures.
So let's break that one down a little bit. I'm going to start with, first of all, just an observation, which is the travel industry tends to be a very hypocritical industry, in that most of us love to travel, but nobody likes it when people travel into their hometown. That's just a psychological perspective. This is an old colonial city. Its streets weren't laid out as a new modern city. There's a lot of funky twists and turns and lefts and rights throughout the city in our cobblestone streets. And yes, no one enjoys sitting behind a lot of cars. Americans are still in love with their cars. And I believe that places that are helping manage mobility, because this is about managing mobility, this is a conversation about that, are providing incentives. The Line 67, when we sponsored it 3 years ago, we moved ridership from 50,000 to 150,000 people when we made it free. If you put 2 people in each car, if you divide that 150 by 2, what we did was we took 70,000 cars off the road by just managing that one sponsorship. Is that the end all and be all? No, but we need more steps like that. We need to figure out more ideas like that. Personally, I was not here. None of us were back here, I don't think, when there used to be trolley service in Newport down to the beach. We need to look at ideas like that on moving people without cars. Encourage walking, encourage biking. Encourage marine transportation, the Providence Newport ferry. Should we try to incentivize a ferry from New York City to Newport the way it used to be at the turn of the century? We're going to need all these ideas and more to help manage the mobility of people. And so I think the city leadership, private sector leadership, public sector leadership has to continue to study new ideas, new opportunities, be prepared to offer new incentives to increase mobility and try to decrease the number of cars that we have on the road.
You mentioned study and plans, and it was brought up yesterday when I was speaking to a counselor, and it was certainly brought up over the years that you and I have been talking about. Many viewers or listeners might be amazed that the city doesn't have a master tourism plan. How important do you think that would be to say, hey, this is how we do this, this is what is right for the city?
I think that this is actually the perfect time to do that. Just a point of clarification for the listeners, there is a big difference between a tourism master plan and a tourism marketing plan. Discover Newport has a very fine tourism marketing plan, which our team of professionals execute with great success. A tourism master plan really charts a blueprint of how tourism should be integrated in a community. What are the parameters? What are the goals? What are the action steps for development or lack thereof? And so I think that this is a perfect time for a tourism master plan done by an accomplished, well-respected third-party consultant to come in. I have not had an opportunity to talk with the mayor or the city council or the city manager about that, but Discover Newport certainly would like to partner with the city officials, and that would be inclusive of stakeholders throughout the private sector, throughout the key sectors I mentioned earlier. And then it also comes down to, well, who's going to finance that? And that's probably going to end up on our lap. We're the tourism people, and we need to put our money where our mouth is. So I think that we would like to work with the city. It is on my punch list of things to do. But I think as we look at 3, 5, 10 years out. I think a tourism master plan would be very helpful for this colonial seaport city.
It certainly makes making decisions easier when you have a plan to go by. Of, well, this is what we said we should do when this happens. I'm just wondering, a question brought up, Michael brought up, what extent is the high cost of living impacting Discover Newport or the tourism industry? What are you hearing about the high cost of living by the tourism and hospitality industry?
So, when you look at resorts throughout the United States, resort communities, when you look at other communities that aren't based on resort base, the cost of lodging today is rising all over. Doesn't really matter whether it's touristic base or just a regular city. We're in a society right now where lodging is very difficult for first people to get into the marketplace. Resorts are particularly difficult because they are areas that often have limited housing and many second homes and premium priced real estate. And so that makes it even more difficult. And so private sector employers today have had to get really creative in terms of how they're going to house their employees. Is one thing. We're lucky this year that the J-1 visas came back and we were able to get a number of international workers back in. But it does, to this gentleman's question, the price of real estate has gone up exponentially and continues to go up. How do you solve that problem is complex. It's not an easy thing to unravel. I think that the city is looking at, where our city, just like most other cities, is really struggling with the conversion of the real estate that we have into short-term rentals. And the short-term rental debate, which we couldn't even cover in this 30-minute show, has a long list of benefits, but it also has a long list of challenges for a community. And so all communities today are trying to figure out how to manage short-term rentals, and many are taking various different approaches. And we're all kind of looking at what the results are and what the scorecards are of the various different techniques of requiring owner-occupied or permit thresholds, like limitations on how many licenses are offered, all the way through the gambit, all the way down to downright banning. So this conversation has been going on for 7 to 10 years. I think it's going to continue to go on. Each municipality is really looking for the right management style, and so this is probably one of the top 3 topics in the travel industry today. We could kick that on for a long time, but I'm going to leave it there for now, Ryan.
Yeah. I would love to see this tourism master plan move forward, maybe with the next Newport City Council, which will get sworn in on December 1st. But speaking of December 1st and heading towards the end of the year, there are some rumors around town that Mr. Evan Smith may be retiring at the end of the year. Can you either confirm or deny what I'm hearing out there in the world?
I've heard those rumors too. People tapping me on the shoulder. So the answer for today, Ryan, is that our 18-member board will be releasing a statement about my future with the organization sometime late in October. So I don't mean to dodge your question right now, but as Peter, Paul, and Mary said, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. But you got to wait until the end of October for the answer to that one.
Okay, we will do that. Kind of somewhat related. Top spot in the world that Evan Smith is hearing that is hot to travel to right now, or is really looking forward to travel to?
As you know, I've said this frequently around town. I love to travel. That's why I got in this industry. I was born with wanderlust, and I'm in my golden years. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more travel. One of the things about travel, it's kind of like food. There's so many different things to choose from on the menu that you're going to enjoy them all. High on my travel list are places like the Galapagos. I'd like to get there. I'd like to see Southeast Asia. That's fascinating to me. I've had the good fortune of exploring a lot of Europe. I've seen most of South America, but I'd like to see more of Australia. I've been very blessed that I've been able to travel all over the world, but there are some punch list places for me that I'd like to get to, and so I'm looking forward to enjoying those elements of the next chapter of my life.
Okay, we'll leave that there. Evan, wondering if there is anything, you mentioned it a couple times, we could talk for hours. We could spend the rest of the day talking.
Exactly.
Wondering if there's anything that you wanted to get to that we did not get to within this 30 minutes.
I don't know. One of the things I'd like to tout, maybe, if you allow me to, is to just kind of summarize. I was saying earlier that a lot of people don't understand the current economic impact of what the travel industry and the non-resident expenditures are in our city. We Discover Newport have long invested in the community in many ways. Some of the bigger ones being the transportation investments, but we have continued to be invested in programs like the fireworks, and the Cliff Walk is a particularly personal favorite of ours, and we do a lot of work with their maps and with signage for the Cliff Walk and other things like that. We 2 years ago, we gave the city a grant for $140,000 for various different civic improvements in the city. We finance public bathrooms. We do a lot of stuff, Ryan, that many people aren't aware of, or frankly, we don't get credit for. And so I just wanted to take a moment to just kind of say that, because sometimes, as I said earlier, people think that travel and tourism, doesn't contribute its part to the community. And I would like to just point out that it does a lot. And I think working together with municipal leaders, we can do more. But I'd like the conversation to at least get to yes, meaning yes, it is doing a tremendous amount already. And yes, it can do more. And so I hope that we can get that conversation migrating in that direction.
To that end, and I only have 2 more points because I know we're on a tight schedule here. A lot of residents probably watching. That's probably the majority of our audience is residents. What can they do to support Discover Newport in the industry more, or ways to get involved? How can they learn more, help more, give you an assist?
I think that residents, full-time residents, because defining a resident is an interesting thing altogether. Who is a resident? But Newport started with a pineapple over the door. It was a place that people welcomed, and I'd like to say that I think Newporters are very proud to welcome people in their community. They're glad to stop and say, "Can I help you?" I saw somebody this morning help somebody, and it was a beautiful thing. And we all have traveled, and we know what it's like not to know something and to say, "Oh, excuse me, do you live here? Could you help me?" So residents, really, I hope will be ambassadors. I hope that they will continue to share ideas. I get a lot of fan mail, I appreciate the perspectives that people are sharing when they're trying to do so in a constructive way. And so I think that we want to embrace all residents in the conversation. We want feedback from all residents, and we want to have a healthy communication line with residents, because I can't say enough about an organization like Newport and Bloom. Those people have great civic pride in our community. They work and they get the dirt underneath their nails. I love those folks. They work to make our city better. And if we had more organizations like Newport and Bloom, the city would be a much better place.
One final thing I'll note, just a reminder to everybody watching, that there is still a Discover Newport Visitor Center. It is on Long Wharf. So if you're looking to point somebody to a place where they can still get all those placards and all of that information right there on Long Wharf.
Real quick, Ryan, regarding visitor centers, we did downsize after COVID. The Gateway Center was envisioned back in the early 80s before computers and before cell phones. By the time we reached COVID, most people were finding their travel-related information electronically, and we were really more or less evolving towards just operating public bathrooms. So what we've decided is to downsize and diversify. So we do operate a visitor center here at Long Wharf, but we also collaborate with many other satellite places. We're in Parati Park for the cruise ships. We work collaboratively with the visitor center on Bowen's Wharf. We stock and manage a visitor center in Bristol at the Armory up there. We work with the state to man airport or provide materials to the airport and to the I-95 visitor center. So what we've really done is decentralized our visitor services program, but it was a really good move for us to downsize from the Gateway Center only because the time and technology had passed that by. We had a great 30-year run there, but it was time to change the business plan.
And I will finally note that your website and your entire staff does a fabulous job of curating everything you got going on discovernewport.org. And I encourage everybody to visit there, even if you live within the 9 cities, towns, and to share this link with anybody who might be coming to Newport, because you can find a lot of info there. I certainly do.
Thank you for putting that up, Ryan.
Of course. Evan, it's been a pleasure, and we'll have to plan another one of these very, very soon, while I think I still can.
Okay. Well,
right.
As you know, I always love talking about travel, so if you ever want to talk travel, give me a holler.
All right. That is Evan Smith, President and CEO of Discover Newport, discovernewport.org. If you missed any portion of this conversation, want to watch it again, want to share it, all available on whatsupnewport.com. Thanks for watching.